Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I am one of the co-founders here at ETR, and as always, I am joined by fellow co-founder, the Lord of the Matchups column. It is, of course, Evan Silva. Evan, what's going on?
What's going on, man? Big slate on tap, and big slates the rest of the way. So lots of work. Just got to put your head down and grind, try to figure out everything. We're talking about Patrick Laird as a real play this week. Did you get a chance to listen to the podcast with Manzanelli and Davis Maddock and Patrick Laird? Because I thought it was awesome.
I caught the first half hour so far.
Well, it goes off the rails after that.
Yeah, I mean, Laird has 1,800 followers on Twitter. So for people, I don't want to be, hashtag how rich with Twitter followers, but a lot of times I don't see my mentions. But if you only have 1,800 and people are tweeting at you constantly, eating cakes in your face and stuff with your name on them and stuff like that, you're going to see it, So he's seen this whole thing. He must think that the fantasy community is so weird. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the show just ends up with him just ripping Davis and Peter down the stretch. But it gets they touch on some topics about the Dolphins being perceived as a team that was tanking and running back value. And I mean it's really interesting, I think, for about the first 40 to 50 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Patrick Laird in the AFC version of this podcast. This episode 38, will be the NFC, and free, of course, just a small sliver of the content / information we're putting out on a week-to-week basis. Episode 39 will cover Patrick Laird, will cover the AFC, and be behind the paywall. And yes, you can easily get the paywalled podcast, the Friday night show audio, Evan's matchups audio transcript. You can get that all in your podcast app. Follow the instructions under RSS feed in the drop down. Again, shout out to the development team for getting that done. And reminder, we are still running the 20% off sale on a monthly or weekly purchase. Use promo code ETR20 if you are interested. We will be going full blast all the way through the Super Bowl. And I will say that from a DFS perspective, action during the playoffs is just popping. I got so much action on Thanksgiving, way more than the main slate, and playoffs will be just like that. For some reason, people love playing the shorter slates. Last note here, there is another established run tournament on DraftKings this week. It will be bigger. I've been promised it will be bigger than the 1,500 that it was last week. I think it'll be around 3,000 entries this time. Again, no rake, added prizes. By the way, go to YouTube, go to our YouTube page. You'll see the lineup reviews that I put up there. But anyways, fun will be had. So we'll put a link once we have it from DraftKings on top of some of the articles, on top of Evan's matchups, et cetera, et cetera. Be sure to find it. Get in there. All right. Enough business. More than enough business. Let's go ahead and get to it with the NFC here, Evan. And the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, God, what an egg they laid. But I would note that what was most interesting to me is that if this game was close, I actually think Kenyon Drake may have gotten 100% of the running back touches, or 95% of the running back touches, because David Johnson really only played in garbage time. Chase Edmonds didn't play at all. It seems like they're just all in on Kenyon Drake at this point, and it's a really valuable role. Now they play Pittsburgh next, which is no cupcake matchup, but Kenyon Drake, I think, is trending up. And yeah, they played really bad against the Rams. I don't think they can play that poorly again on offense. What do you think about the running back usage, and what do you see out of the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Kenyon Drake has been the Cardinals' best running back for the last, 4 or 5 weeks. Really, ever since he arrived in that first game against San Francisco, and he's earned this treatment. And Chase Edmonds didn't get a touch on Sunday, and David Johnson remained ineffective. So I think that we'll continue to see Kenyon Drake as the clear-cut lead back in that offense. Christian Kirk popping in this week's buy low air yards model. But yeah, I mean, no huge takeaways from a game where they were just severely outmatched coming off their bye. And I think, they've got another really difficult matchup on deck at Pittsburgh or against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, really difficult. And yeah, one thing about Christian Kirk, I mean, I thought Christian Kirk was a pretty reasonable play. I think Wiggins was on not playing Christian Kirk due to the Jalen Ramsey situation. And I don't like to go overboard on cornerback matchups, but there were other options in that 5K range on DraftKings. And so getting off Christian Kirk proved to be lucrative. Okay. I mean, he was total dust. All right, let's go to Atlanta. Julio Jones sat out on Thanksgiving. I do expect Julio Jones back this week, but we did get the as predicted 3 wide receiver set of Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and Christian Blake. But anyways, they could be getting really healthier this week. Like, I think Julio's going to be back. I think Austin Hooper has a chance to be back. Devontae Freeman returned last week and played a majority of the snaps. It actually sets up well for them in this game against the Panthers. And we'll talk about the Panthers situation in a minute due to their coaching change. But yeah, I think, a healthy Falcons team with nothing to lose, just slinging it around. It interests me from a fantasy perspective. What do you see from the Falcons on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, it's just they could not protect Matt Ryan, and they have not been able to protect him for an extended period of time now. Since the Falcons' Week 9 bye, they have allowed pressure at the third highest rate in the NFL, 44%, almost half the time that Matt Ryan is dropping back to pass, he's under pressure, and that has explained why he has struggled for an extended period. Over his last 5 games, only 61% completion, 6.5 yards per pass attempt, 5 touchdowns, 8 turnovers. Now they're facing a Panthers defense that can really get after the passer, leads the NFL in sacks. I think that Austin Hooper coming back will be really good as an under pressure outlet for Matt Ryan, just to keep the chains moving. And hopefully he does come back fully, because he's been out for a while with this MCL sprain. They really don't have any real life reason to push him back, but he is back in practice, and right now looks like Austin Hooper's going to play.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, Jaden Graham showed that he's at least capable on Thanksgiving. All right, let's talk about Carolina. God, when you lose at home to the Redskins, heads have to roll. And today, Panthers management ownership made the decision to fire Ron Rivera. They've lost 4 straight games. They have 5 losses in their last 6 games. I think this is the bottom for Carolina. So I'm curious what you think the effect of firing Ron Rivera will be. And then also from a fantasy perspective, I think the big news is Greg Olsen going down, and we have this Ian Thomas situation, which I want to discuss. But first, what do you think about the firing, and if you think that makes any difference for the Panthers going forward for this last month?
No, I think that they still have a lot to play for, at least individually. Christian McCaffrey, is flirting with the NFL's all-time record in yards from scrimmage. DJ Moore has just been rolling, and Kyle Allen has a lot to play for individually. So, and then, you mentioned the Greg Olsen injury. Like, Ian Thomas is going to be a great streamer if Greg Olsen misses time. Ian Thomas, from weeks 13 through 17 with Greg Olsen out last year, ranked 6th among all NFL tight ends in receiving yards. He's a 91st percentile athlete coming out of college. He jumped right in, played fewer than half of the snaps last week, but still drew 4 targets on something like 47% of the snaps. It looked like Kyle Allen was willing to go to him last week. And, we have talked a lot about how just kind of narrow this target distribution is in Carolina. You know where the ball is going to go pretty much every single week. And Ian Thomas, I think, can slide directly into that Greg Olsen role.
I want to note that Perry Fuel, who the secondary coach, has been named the interim head coach. Norv Turner will transition from offensive coordinator to special assistant to the head coach, and quarterbacks coach Scott Turner will serve as the offensive coordinator. So it's not like they're going through a full overhaul, obviously, in the middle of the season. There's going to be continuity in the scheme. I think we can project along the same lines what we've been seeing before. And yeah, the Ian Thomas, shout out to anybody who's still alive and season long. We get a lot of DFS screenshots, but it was cool this morning to see some of the season long screenshots with the McCaffrey, Godwin teams, with the Eckler teams and stuff like that. I think season long people might have a streaming decision between something like Ian Thomas versus Gesicki versus Caden, and if Evan Ingram's out again versus Vance McDonald in the flow chart. And we'll talk about all those guys, but I think Ian Thomas is right there with the rest of those guys. I assume, Evan, that you think Ian Thomas is on par with the Gesickis and Vance McDonalds of the world right now.
Absolutely, and we'll be hitting that hard on Friday's show.
All right, let's get to the Chicago Bears. Man, it was lit early on Thanksgiving because I played Javon Wims and Anthony Miller, and it was so good. Taylor Gabriel remains in the concussion protocol. We'll see. They have a short week this week, play Thursday again, this time against Dallas. So yeah, what'd you see out of Javon Wims and Anthony Miller? Because man, they look like they're legit, and like I would consider playing them if I was the Bears, even if Taylor Gabriel gets cleared, which it doesn't look like he will. I would consider playing Wims and Miller over Gabriel. Anyways, what do you think about what's going on with the Bears?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that Javon Wims and Anthony Miller featuring those guys it's just a better situation for the team in real life. Javon Wims now has made 3 starts this season, 94%, 93%, 91% of the snaps, with 56 yards in 2 of them, a goose egg in another one. So, I mean, he's like a wide receiver 4 in season long, but he'll be, I think should be a really popular showdown play on Thursday night, because we know that he's going to be on the field quite a bit. He's a big contested catch winner. He's a possession receiver, but we've always liked him going back to preseason. He's been pretty consistently productive. Whenever he's been out there and getting opportunity. Anthony Miller is a baller, man. Anthony Miller last year scored 7 touchdowns as a rookie, playing with a dislocated shoulder that he dislocated like 7 different times during the season. He still has 0 touchdowns. So he's got some touchdown regression, I think, in his future. But he's been catching a bunch of balls. He's been efficient. He made 2 awesome plays down the sidelines on really good throws from Mitchell Trubisky late in that game to lock up that win for the Bears. The Bears are still in playoff contention. This is going to be a big game for playoff implications. Bears against the Cowboys on Thursday night. They're both at 6-6 on the season.
Wanted to note Jesper Horsted. Yeah, he caught a touchdown. He only played 6 snaps. I mean, he saw 1 target, scored the touchdown. So it's really thin to chase Horsted, even with Trey Burton, Shaheen, the Bronconator, all, I think, expected to miss again. Let's go to Dallas, man. I mean, God, just a shocking performance on Thanksgiving by Dallas, really. And like, I think the Bills are really good. I thought the Bills are really good all year. I thought the Bills had a really good chance to win the game, but for the Cowboys just to lay an absolute egg like that, I don't even know what to say. What did you see out of Dallas? Because it's hard for me to even say anything from a fantasy perspective. They just could not do anything against the Bills. And I get that a lot of teams can't do anything against the Bills, but home on Thanksgiving to lay an egg there was really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys in terms of 1 loss are just like the most underachieving team in the league, probably. I mean, the Chargers it's hard to get worse than the Chargers, but the Cowboys are kind of right there. And they just kind of find ways to lose. And, it was just a very uninspired performance. Now they go on the road playing. It's going to, not great weather in Chicago on Thursday night. The splits have been bad on the road, especially for Amari. Amari this year is averaging 126 yards per game at Jerry World, 35 yards per game on the road. He is popping in the buy low air yards model. You're going to play Amari, but I mean, it's just they're a really disappointing team. There's not a whole lot else to say besides that.
Yeah. Let's move to Detroit. Jeff Driscoll is now done for the year, and I kind of think Matthew Stafford may be done as well. That's not official. So they're down to David, let's do some blow at quarterback, and he may start the rest of the way. And actually, like, he looked surprisingly competent. Took advantage of some blown coverages from Chicago early in that game, but I mean, he was mostly fine. I would note that the Lions have now lost TJ Hawkinson for the season to a shoulder injury. But what do you think about the Lions' prospects with David Blow starting maybe the rest of the way in terms of Galladay and Marvin?
Showed poise in the pocket, showed decisiveness, just getting going in the right directions. I mean, he, was willing to force feed the ball to the Lions' outside playmakers. Kenny Galladay had a monster game. Marvin Jones had a good game. I mean, I think that they should play him the rest of the season. They probably will. Because Jeff Driscoll is on IR now, and Matthew Stafford, apparently the Lions would be willing to place him on IR, but he doesn't want to go on IR or something like that. So David Blau is going to be the guy the rest of the way. We'll be starting him. Ryan Reynolds and I are running this Scott Fishbowl team, and we're doing really well. I know you are, and Thorman. All of us are doing really well in the Scott Fishbowl. We're going to be starting David Blau against what I think is a kind of a pass funnel Vikings defense this week. So